Some memories from childhood fade with time. Others never leave you. Whether it's a shadow in the hallway, a voice no one else heard, or a night you don't quite remember, some childhood experiences stick around for a reason. In today's episode of Brainrot Digest, we're diving into 10 real stories of people who remembered something weird. Something wrong. And to this day, no one can explain what really happened. You've been warned. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe with notifications on for more spooky stories every week. 1. The Man Under the Crib. When I was 4, I used to wake up crying every night. My parents thought it was night terrors. But I kept saying the same thing. There's a man under my crib. They assumed it was imagination until my dad finally checked. He didn't find anything, but he said the carpet under the crib was warm, like someone had been laying there. After that, he moved the crib across the room. I slept fine. Years later, I brought it up as a joke during dinner. My dad went completely pale and left the table. Later, my mom told me there had been a string of break-ins in our neighborhood back then. The burglar never took anything, just rearranged furniture and left traces that he'd been there. The night my dad checked under the crib, our front door had been unlocked. I asked her why they didn't tell me. She said, "We didn't want to scare you." But we never left the front door unlocked again. 2. The birthday guest no one invited. When I was 6, I had a birthday party in our backyard. My parents filmed everything on a camcorder. Early 2000s footage, super grainy. After the party, my mom played the video back for us to watch. That's when we noticed something strange. In the background of the footage, there's a tall man in a black hoodie standing just behind the trees. He doesn't move, doesn't talk, and no one remembers seeing him at the party. My mom assumed it was a neighbor or a parent, but none of the adults recognized him. He appears in multiple parts of the footage, sometimes just at the edge of the frame, never interacting with anyone. Years later, when we digitized the tapes, I noticed something chilling. In one clip, the man turns his head toward the camera. His face is blurry. Not out of focus, just smudged, like it was erased. We even tried enhancing the footage. No luck. I posted stills on Reddit once, hoping someone could explain it. A stranger to me, just 3 words. I saw him too. 3. The Forest Mirror. My grandparents had a cabin deep in the Vermont woods. When I was around 9, I went exploring near the edge of the property and found something odd, a full-length mirror, just standing alone in a clearing. No frame. No sign of where it came from. Just a mirror propped against a tree. At first, I thought it was some old trash. But the mirror reflected perfectly, too perfectly. No scratches, no dirt, nothing. I told my grandpa, and he got upset. Said to never go there again. That night, he moved my bed away from the window and left a cross under my pillow. The next morning, the mirror was gone. He later told me, after years of begging, that locals used to say a mirror spirit lived in those woods. If you saw it in the reflection, it could follow you home. I laughed it off until last year, when I went back as an adult. The mirror was there again. Same spot. Still perfect. I didn't look into it. I ran. 4. Sleepover visitor. When I was 10, I slept over at my best friend's house. His family lived in an old Victorian home with creaky floors and tall windows. We set up sleeping bags in the living room and stayed up watching movies. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps upstairs. I thought it was his parents, until I saw a figure slowly walk down the stairs. It was a little girl. Pale skin, long black hair, wearing what looked like an old-fashioned nightgown. She didn't look at me or say anything, just walked across the room and disappeared into the wall. I screamed. My friend woke up confused. His parents came down, but said no one was upstairs. Years later, my friend told me something he'd never admitted before. His family had moved there after the previous owners lost their daughter in a house fire. She died upstairs. His mom always kept a nightgown of hers in the attic. They never found out how it ended up folded neatly by the fireplace the next morning. 5. The singing from the vent. In my childhood bedroom, there was a vent near the head of my bed. Every few nights, I'd hear humming coming from it. Not like AC noise, actual music. A woman's voice. She always sang the same tune. It was soft, wordless, almost like a lullaby. I remember once trying to hum along, and the singing stopped. When I told my mom, she brushed it off as dreams. But one night, she came in and sat on the bed with me while I waited for the voice. It didn't come. She left, and I curled up under my blanket. Then I heard it, the same voice, singing again. But this time, it whispered a word. Hello. I screamed. My dad took apart the vent the next day and found nothing. No animals, no objects, no explanation. We moved houses 2 years later. But here's the creepy part. A few weeks ago, I stayed in a rental across the country and heard the exact same song coming from the bathroom vent. Before diving into our last 5 stories, Do you have any creepy memories from childhood? Drop it in the comments. 6. The closet that opened for no one. When I was 8, my family moved into a small rental house. My bedroom had an old sliding closet door that never opened all the way. It would jam halfway, no matter how hard I tried. I got used to it. But one night, I woke up to a soft scraping sound. The closet door had slid completely open. I turned on the lamp. Nothing inside. I went to close it, and it jammed halfway again. Just like always. The next morning, I told my parents, and they laughed it off. But then it happened again. And again. And every time, it only opened fully when I was asleep. One night I stayed up late, pretending to be asleep. I kept one eye half open. At around 3 a.m., I saw it move. The door slid open. Slow and steady. And there was a figure inside. Pale, crouched, staring. When I screamed, my dad burst in, and the closet was closed again. He thought I was dreaming, but we moved out 3 months later when my little brother started talking to the closet boy. 7. The drawing that drew itself. My sister and I used to draw with crayons on a big roll of butcher paper that stretched across the living room floor. One day, we left our drawing half finished, a picture of a house with stick figure people. We went to lunch, and when we came back, something had changed. Someone had drawn a new figure in the window of the house. It had no face. Just a black smudge where the head should be. The hands were too long, and it was looking out the window toward the rest of the paper, toward us. We asked our mom if she added it, and she swore she hadn't touched it. That night, I dreamt about the drawing. In the dream, the faceless figure stepped out of the paper and stood beside my bed. I wet the bed that night. My parents threw away the drawing. But a week later, I found a fresh sheet of butcher paper under my bed. Drawn in pencil, faint and frantic, was that same faceless figure, this time with the words, "Keep drawing." 8. The man with the wrong face. I was around 5 when I met the man with the wrong face. That's how I described him to my mom. We were in a grocery store, and a man walked by who looked normal, but my brain screamed that something was wrong. His eyes were too wide. His smile was frozen, like it was painted on. He looked right at me and said, "You'll remember me." I cried so hard my mom had to carry me out. Over the years, I'd see him again. In a different town, different clothes, same face. Always too close, always watching. Once I saw him sitting in a car parked outside my school. Another time, at the zoo. When I was 13, I told my therapist about him. She said it might be a stress-induced hallucination. But here's the thing, my cousin visited last year, and she brought her 6-year-old daughter. That night, the little girl pointed to a man walking by our house and whispered, "He has the wrong face." 9. The lullaby on the baby monitor. When I was a toddler, my parents used an old baby monitor, the kind with a walkie-talkie style receiver. Even after I got older, they kept it plugged in for years by accident. One night, when I was around 7, I heard something through it. A lullaby. Soft and slow. It wasn't coming from our house. My parents were asleep. The monitor had no camera, just audio. Then the lullaby stopped, and I heard a voice. A woman whispered, "Don't open your eyes." I froze. I lay awake the rest of the night, eyes wide open, watching the door. When I told my dad, he dismissed it as cross-signal interference. But I never heard anything like it again. Years later, my mom told me something chilling. When I was 2, I used to hum that same lullaby, a song she'd never taught me. And once, she found me sitting in the dark, staring at the monitor, singing back to it. 10. The twin I never had. My earliest memory is playing hide and seek with a boy in our old apartment. He was funny, wore red pajamas, and always hid in the closet. I told my parents his name was Jaden, and they thought I had an imaginary friend. But I insisted he was real. I even had drawings of us together. Then one day, I told my mom that Jaden said he had to leave. I cried for days. It wasn't until I was an adult that I found out the truth. Before I was born, my mom had been pregnant with twins. She lost one in the second trimester. She never told anyone. Not even my dad. The doctors advised her not to bring it up, they said I'd never know. But I did. I knew his name. I knew his face. And when I showed her the old drawings, she went pale. He looked just like me. Childhood memories blur with dreams, but sometimes, they carry truths our adult minds can't explain. Maybe kids are more open. More aware. Or maybe some things never meant to be seen, show up anyway. This has been Brainrot Digest. Until next time. Keep the lights on.